Hello, and thanks for joining us tonight. With the Newham Public Library, we are so excited to have Jennifer Stirling joining us. She is the personal assistant to her sister, Lindsey Stirling. Let's go ahead and get started. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit more, first of all, about your job title and life in general?
Sure. Yeah, I was Lindsey's first employee. Like back when she didn't have a manager, didn't have anyone. I was really struggling financially. Just, didn't have, I was a stay-at-home mom, but my husband wasn't making a lot of money. And so she's like, hey, you could send out posters for me. I'll sign them. I'll send them to your house. You can mail out posters for my fans. Some people are wanting these after America's Got Talent, So I started doing that. I kind of helped set up her first website. Neither of us knew what we were doing. So we were just kind of figuring it out as we went and, trial and error and made some mistakes. But I've been along for the ride ever since. Just kind of my jobs evolved over time, but they've kept me around. So it's been a lot of fun to just see that whole process from the very beginning to what it is now.
Awesome. So tell us, what's a typical weekday like for you?
Well, I do I think I told you earlier, I do about 5 part-time jobs. Mother's one of them, and I only say part-time because I share my children with an ex-spouse, so I literally have them half of the days of the week. Otherwise, I think for most parents that's a full-time job. But I also do social media for a client in California. I work at a botanical garden about 20 hours a week, and I work about 20 hours a week for Lindsey from home. So, and then I teach trumpet lessons. So, okay. And I do some volunteer work. I play for an orchestra, but that's just kind of here and there. So.
All right. So that kind of answered my, a little bit earlier, you answered my next question, which was, how did you get started helping Lindsey? And so you said she offered you a job sending posters.
Right. Fans after America's Got Talent were asking for merchandise. They wanted autographed items. So she printed off a bunch of posters, signed them, sent them to my house. And then I was the person who rolled them up, put them in a little tube, sent them off. We had a blog at that point. We didn't even have an official website. People just go to this really cheap blog. And after Crystallize came out, the blog, it was destroyed because it had so much traffic that we had to get help to build an actual website. And then we started the big commerce store we have now with all of her sheet music on it. She eventually got a merchandise provider, so we split those two up. She had a merchandise side and a sheet music side. I run the sheet music still, so I create all the content for that, and I run the just all the ads and the sales. I work with the karaoke track guy and the piano accompaniment guy, and it's a lot of fun.
All right, that does sound really fun. So that kind of leads into my next question. So things exploded. So what brought about the creation, I guess, of the company of LindseyStomp Music?
Well, I think she always wanted to tour. That was her big goal. So as soon as she was able, I think she Crystallize exploded. She had enough money to justify, renting a bus and a skeleton crew. they started booking venues, little small ones, but she has routinely taken all the money she gets and just put it back into her art. She's a small spender. You wouldn't think so, but she likes to buy things with cash, but her car, I think she drives like a Kia, not even a nice Kia. It's she's very careful with what she spends her money on, because that's a part of her. She's explained it to me that she doesn't want to lose. She's always been kind of practical. And when you become famous, you kind of lose some of that normalcy, and it just, a lot of things change. The way that people look at you, the way they treat you, the way that just you're the boss now, and so keeping things simple and just living simply is something she's continued to do even after having the kind of money that she does. So instead of spending those kind of things on herself, she puts it back into her art, and that's what she's always done.
And you can definitely see that in the music that she puts together and some of the projects she's done recently, that she definitely invests back into that. But you'd mentioned earlier that you teach trumpet lessons. So tell us a bit more about your own musical journey.
I started playing trumpet at 9 years old, a little later than Lindsey. The school band, you know, they were sent home a flyer. What do you want to play? And the only instrument we had in the house was a trumpet, and it was my dad's old one. And honestly, though, that's the one I wanted to play because they get all the cool parts. You know, you listen to Star Wars, and the trumpet comes in, and it's like, yes, you know. So I was excited about that. I remember I was doing it wrong, and the band instructor just happened to play trumpet, walked by, and he said, "No, no, no, do your mouth like this." And then it was like all of a sudden it was so easy. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so like." But if he hadn't come by and shown me that one little thing, like I would have learned it wrong. So many kids learn instruments wrong, and they learn all these bad habits that if someone had just shown them at the beginning, they could thrive. And like that in that moment, I was just like so grateful. Like, yes, like thank you. You know, that saved me a lot of trouble. So it's my goal as a teacher to make things easy for kids so that they can really enjoy music and thrive and make it a part of their life. Because I think that just the world we live in, it's less and less cares about art and more, it's like more money driven. And I think that it's part of what makes us human is creating things. And if we have something to hold on to that we can say, this is mine, you know, even though that doesn't identify who you are, I think especially for kids, if they have that thing to say, I play the trumpet, or I'm a cross country runner, or whatever it is, they're so much less likely to fall into pitfalls of alcohol and drugs and these things that, you know, that when they're looking for an identity and a way to fit in. So I think that's really important. And so I've done that for my kids. I've made them pick an instrument when they were young and follow through with it and learn it. Right now, my youngest son, he's gravitated to soccer. So like that, he tells a ton of energy into soccer, and I'm fine with that. My other son is a singer. He loves to sing. So we put a lot of energy in that area. But I love working with kids and adults. I've had kids from 4 years old to, which is a little hard because they don't have their big teeth in, but anything to get them started in music, and up to like 75. And people come to me and say, oh, you know, they say that old people can't learn a new instrument. I'm like, that is bull. Like, you take a kid at 9 years old and they consistently practice an hour for 10 years, of course they're going to be pretty good. Like, you take an adult and you practice an hour for 10 years, you're going to be probably better than that kid because you have the wisdom and the work ethic that a child doesn't necessarily have. So I think that's completely, like, I would disregard that advice entirely as far as you can't teach an adult like a new, you know, an instrument, or it's harder. And like, I don't think so. I think it's just we want to tell ourselves we can't do it, we're too busy, or we don't have the time to put into it. But I think at any age you can, if you feel like you missed out, like you didn't get to do that instrument or learn that thing as a child, and you feel gypped, you know, my parents didn't give that to me. You can do it now. Like, start now, pick something, hobby, anything that you love, and just do it. I know Lindsey's pianist. He didn't start playing piano until he was like 20, and he practiced hours and hours a day, and then he made it in the music industry. So, and I think he did that at like, you know, 23. Like, it only took a few years, so it can be done.
All right. Thank you for sharing that. So where does Lindsey often get inspiration for her songs when she comes up with an original song?
When she collaborates, I think, you know, she works together with another artist for some of that inspiration, because one of her biggest concerns is pumping out a bunch of music that sounds exactly the same. So she makes a point of collaborating with other different people and not just the same producer, so that she can kind of, it's still her, it's still got kind of her touch on it, but it's also got the touch of somebody else to kind of give it that edge to like pick up people's ears and be like, oh, that sounds different than, you know, the last one I heard, but it still sounds like Lindsey. Mm-hmm. And I know I think most artists take a lot from their own lives, you know, whatever emotions and feelings and their triumphs, their fears, their struggles of that period in their life, or from their past, their hopes and dreams of the future. I think a lot of that inspires, and that all of that energy that they're able to produce music that moves people. Because I think as human beings, we all go through those emotions. We all have fears. We're all afraid of something, and we all hope for things. And life's hard sometimes. So I think that organic vulnerability that she's been able to show through her music and in her personality, because she's not afraid to like put it out, like, this is where I'm at, this is how I'm doing, and just for people to see that, hey, I'm not perfect. It's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to admit that you have a problem. It's okay that, like, if you saw her Mother's Day video, she was kind of making fun of herself that, she'd just frozen some eggs. She's getting older and she's still not married and she wants to have children. So she just frozen some eggs and she was joking about Mother's Day with these eggs that she just frozen. And it was really cute. But obviously she's like, I wish I was a mom, but things like that I think a lot of people can relate to. And she puts a lot of that into her music as well.
Thank you. So her newest album is Artemis, right? And tell us what needs to happen for a new album to get released. What are all the things that you do behind the scenes to get that together?
Well, I don't do a lot of the legwork. I'm kind of the person who she'll send music to and be like, hey, Jen, do you like this? What do you think? So I'm aware that it's happening, but I'm not necessarily part of the process unless it's like, would you like this name or this name? Or what do you think? But I think for an album, like during COVID, obviously, she could have spent a ton of time making new music, but it doesn't make a lot of business sense if you're not able to take that music on tour. So her entire tour was canceled for Artemis. So she's been working on other projects, just doing some other things. She's been working a lot on producing. She wants to learn how to produce herself her own music. And so waiting for the right time, the timing is important. So until she's able to go on tour and showcase Artemis, and I think after all of that, and if she continues to do well, then that'd be time for another album. But I think for her, she has to be ready and I really think she has to kind of bolster herself up, like, yes, I can do this, because every album is kind of like you're putting yourself out there and it's like, is this gonna be really well received? Are they gonna like it as well as the last one? It's kind of scary because it's like your little creation, your little child, and no one wants as parents, like, how would you feel if people were like, oh, that's an ugly baby? It's like, it's literally her little creation, and like, please like it. So I think it takes a lot of emotional preparation and courage, as well as just business timing. What makes sense to put that energy in that area, because she's done so many different things. I mean, she's written her book, she's done different CDs, DVDs. She did, oh gosh, she likes to sew. She likes creating the outfits.
She creates her outfits?
Actually for this tour, I think she did most of the work herself because she had time at home. So she's like, hey, I love sewing, I'm gonna do these this time. So the only reason she handed it over was she didn't have the time, but she usually works very closely. I mean, she's one of those rare artists, honestly. Most artists aren't as involved as she is in all of the different processes. Like, she works very closely with any production, producers, directors of her videos. Like, she's like the co-director. Like, she's calling the shot. She's working with him saying, oh, I want it more like this. And the same with the costumes. Like, she'll draw pictures of kind of what she's looking for. They go back and forth, and then they'll do it for her. But she's stayed up late on her own, lots of times. Little Marco Polo, and she's like, yeah, I'm up late making my costumes for my dancers. I have to have them done by tomorrow. She's a master procrastinator, but man, like, her creative juices, just like, she goes crazy when it's like, she's that personality who can wait to the last minute, and then it's like, I got it, and then she can get it done. So right. I think when under pressure is when she like is able to perform the best sometimes.
Awesome.
She's also a perfectionist. She wants it done right, and she works very hard.
So when she does go on tour, what are your responsibilities when she's on tour?
I'm usually behind the computer. I have flown out to venues before just to like hang out, spend time with her. I used to work at the airport, so I could fly for free, and I would just show up and, hey, spend the day, help out where I could. But mostly I'm addressing fan emails or people who have ticketing issues or photographer requests, licensing, all kinds of stuff. Whatever comes through, I'm kind of the master filter. So I get the emails, I send them to this guy, that guy, this lady, and whoever does that job, if I feel like it fits or it makes sense, or I'll respectfully decline if it doesn't look like something that would make it through the process. But yeah,
Okay.
just trying to make her fans feel like they're appreciated.
Mhm.
We get a lot of fan mail, just general, so responding. I think people don't always expect a response, and when they get one, they're really excited, even if it's just from little me, that yay, Lindsey's team responded to my email. So,
So when music isn't center stage, pun intended, what does your family do for fun?
we love board games, so
Right.
we're always playing board games. We like watching clean movies. I took my mom out to clean comedy for Mother's Day. We like hiking. We'll do like family yoga or Blogilates, routines. We like watching our kids play. They're kind of at the ages now where and Lindsey's a great aunt. She loves playing with the babies. And sometimes it's cooking, like just helping each other in the kitchen. Like pretty simple. Like we don't do crazy, expensive trips. When we get together, it's usually, pretty simple, but we have a good time.
All right. So what would you say is the most difficult part of your job?
I would say like stalkers, I guess, or just, I would say like I've learned a lot from the beginning, just how to respond in a non-triggered way when people are nasty, and just being nice back. I think, sometimes it's hard when you can see that they're being very judgmental and irrational, and you want to defend them. You don't want to say, well, you don't know what you're talking about. This isn't her fault, or and just being understanding instead. I'm so sorry you're feeling that way. But yeah, I think it takes maturity to just like not let it get to you when people are angry, or like it's kind of the two opposite ends of the spectrum. Either like not unenthused or way too enthusiastic, or they're kind of getting scary. So and finding that line and the appropriateness of what to say or not to respond at all. And finding time for the things that are the most important. Like emails can be kind of just routine, but like setting that aside and actually working on a project that needs to get done. So I'd say just time management sometimes is difficult.
Okay. Sorry. What's been the hardest experience that you've faced as a musician? So for yourself.
Oh, I think public humiliation would top the list. When you mess up on a big solo or something where you just feel like, oh man, that was really, really embarrassing. And it's really hard in trumpet. You're very loud. And so in an orchestra, when you feel like, oh, I just kind of ruined that moment for everyone. And I think just getting to the point where you can just accept whatever your best is in that moment and let it go, and move on to the next thing. Because the worst thing you can do is to worry about what's coming up. If something really hard is coming up, some hard passage, and you're worried about that, so you're playing safe, or you're stressing about what you did wrong. And really, the key is just stay in the present, because you can't do anything about the past. Worrying about the future is just going to make you stressed and probably make it not sound as good as if you just let it happen. So I think getting into that flow and not stressing out. And it's interesting. I'm very much an introvert, and a lot of musicians are, because they're the ones willing to spend 8 hours in a practice room by themselves every day. And Lindsey's an extrovert, and she loves crowds. She loves being in front of people. She still gets nervous, but I think a lot of musicians struggle with just performance anxiety. I think a lot of people who look up to musicians say, oh, I wish I could do that. Like, it's not that it's easy for us, we're just doing it anyway. It's hard, especially when you're in the spotlight, or when you get to a point where people are depending on you to play well. And it can be a lot of fun, but you have to forget about yourself and think more about the music itself and giving the audience a good show. And I think if you don't let the ego get in the way, then it's a lot of fun. If you do, then it can be really stressful.
All right, thank you. So I think that's a nice segue. What do you enjoy most about your work?
There's playing with amazing groups. Like I play with millennial choirs and orchestras. We're actually going to be playing up in Utah in an outdoor venue next month, and it's actually a multi-state thing. So there's several people from several states coming together to Utah, but we have individual concerts in our respective states when COVID isn't going on. So, but I've always wanted. Since I was a kid, my dad would play these orchestral, beautiful records, and play in the house, and I would like dream of being a part of a group like that. And while my I give my music into this group freely, it's a volunteer job. It's an excellent outlet for me because their standards are so high. So even though we're not getting paid, the reward is in just being part of this musical experience that is and able to share that with so many people at such a high level, even though I'm not getting paid to do it. And I mean, it'd be lovely if I was, but it's okay. And the reason I'm willing to do it is because they're that good. And there's just nothing like playing a powerful piece of music that touches you here. And it's so therapeutic and healing. And I've literally had like healing crying moments on stage, where I'm sitting there like, ooh, because it's just touching me so much. Of course, not when I'm playing, but it really can be such a healing experience. And I really, the choir, it's about 1,000-piece choir behind me. I'm smack in the middle, because I play the trumpet. I'm in the back of the orchestra and the front of the choir. And so you get this just her surround sound and that vibration. And if you know Crystallize, she named that song after vibration, right? And the power of vibrational energy and the words that you speak. And we kind of we went to a practitioner I introduced her to, who taught us about that, and that's why she named it Crystallize. But I think it's really that vibration in the music, and especially in an environment like that, for me, that is just so powerful, and I just love it.
Thank you. So we're just about done here. So one last question, and you've already shared quite a bit, which has been awesome, but what other advice would you have for musicians and composers, just real quick?
I think it's really important to not worry about what other people think, to an extent. Like you have to be authentic. Lindsey would tell you that you do have to think about your audience, though. Like if you want to sell what you have, you do have to, in some way or shape or form, cater to the needs of what people are asking for. So with that in mind, molding your brand and maintaining your integrity and your standard while delivering your product. And I think that whatever style you deliver, as long as you're living a life of integrity and you're being honest, and that will play through whatever music you create. And just being brave. Any person out there had to be vulnerable enough to put their music out on a pedestal and say, what do you think? And someone to do. So, and it's okay. Like, it's okay if other people don't, you can't win them all. Some people aren't going to like your music, but even if just one person does, like, you made a difference to that one person.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us this evening. It's been a lot of fun, and I'm hoping that we get lots of people that are able to watch it later. But we hope you have a great rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your day off, as it were.
Yeah. Did Paulina have any questions, like about the publishing, I think you'd said?
Our other participant was the one who had had that question, but I don't know, something happened. So hopefully she gets to watch it later. But
okay.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.